Hello all. We're going to talk about finding the equation of a line. Um, and this is section 7.4. Uh, we're going to use a different approach than the book does. So if you're someone who looks at the book, you can just ignore um, the part about standard form. We don't really need the standard form of the equation of a line. So we're going to use this special way to find the equation of a line. That's called the point slope form. And we'll use the slope intercept form. We'll do it that way. And we will also talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. We will always write our equations of lines in this form, which is called slope intercept. So here's that equation. The slope is given by the letter m, that's the coefficient of x, the number in front of x. And b, we sometimes just call b the y-intercept. Technically, the y-intercept is a point where x is 0 and y equals some number. So if you think about it, some line like this would be the point B on the number B on the y-axis, but its coordinates would really be 0, B, because x equals 0, y equals B. Now, here's an example. Y equals 3x minus 4. If you look back to this equation here, there's a lot of information available to you already right here. I know the slope of this line is 3. It's positive. It's going to be going uphill. Its y-intercept is negative 4 for the point 0, negative 4. So if we have a point and we're given the slope, there's two ways to find equation of line. We can use substitution, which means we use this formula and we plug in, so we have some point, we'll call it x1, y1. We plug in x1 for x and y1 for y, and that will allow us to determine what b has to equal because the slope is given to us. The second method, which I actually prefer, but it does require you to learn another form of the line. So if you know that this x1, y1 is some point on the line, we have this equation, y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. And then we plug in the numbers, y1 for y1, x1 for x1, and work everything out. And then eventually you rearrange, so you're left with y equals mx plus b. So first thing we're going to do in example 1 is graph this line. We know that this is a point. Remember, x comes first. We'll call it x1, y1. So where would that be? X equals 1 and y equals 2. There is my point. Now, from what we know about slope, remember this is the rise over the run. So I can graph this line by going 3 units in the x direction from my original point and 2 units in the y direction. So if I go over here, That would put me at 4. And then I go up 2. There's my second point. And we only need 2 points to create a line. Now just connect these, and there is the line. So you start with the point and you use the slope to get the second point, and then you have your line. Now we're going to find the equation of this line. What is the equation of this line? It's hard to really see what the y-intercept is, and this is me drawing by hand, but we want to know what's the equation of the line. The first method is called substitution. We know what m is. We don't know what b is, but we can plug in values for y. So we have this point 1, 2. We can call that x1, y1. So if you plug in y for y, I would be plugging in the number 2. 2 equals what? The slope, that's 2/3, times x, which is 1, plus b, which is what we don't know. This is our unknown. So now we solve for b. So 2 equals 2/3 plus b. So 2 minus 2/3 equals b. So what is 2 minus 2/3? Well, we got to get a common denominator. That would be 6/3. That's equivalent to the number 2, right? Minus 2/3 equals 4/3. So now I know b equals 4/3. And finally, I can write my equation. Y equals 2/3 x plus 4/3. Let's see if that looks anything like what we got here. Well, b equals 4/3. b equals 4/3. Isn't that 1 and 1/3? And if you look, there's my y-intercept, and it looks pretty close, really. It's a little bit like 1/3 of the way between 1 and 2. So this worked out pretty well. And if you use this method, which you can do when you have a slope and a point, you just have to be careful, because I see students make more mistakes with this method, and I'm not sure why, but some students really prefer it. There we go. And let's just emphasize what this slope is telling us. So the slope is 2/3. So what this tells me, that if I start at this y-intercept, for example, and, well, no, let's just start at this point, 1, 2, because that's a little clearer right there. There's the point, 1, 2. The run is 3. So if I go 1, 2, 3 units to the right, I should go 2 units up. And that's exactly what happened. So that's further evidence that we have the right line. Now, we're going to do the same problem, but we're going to use this new formula called the point-slope equation of a line. And here it is. If you take Math 144 or keep going in that kind of mathematics, you'll probably have to memorize this. For us, everything's open book. But let's see how this works. So this y here and this x here, they stay the same. So I'm going to write y minus y1. What is y1? The number 2. equals the slope, 2/3, times x minus x1, which is 1. Now, we have to multiply this out. So y minus 2 equals 2/3 x minus 2/3. And now our goal is to end up with y equal mx plus b. So we need to get rid of this 2 on this side. So we do that by adding 2 to both sides. So y equals 2/3 x minus 2/3 plus 2. In other words, y equals 2/3 x plus 4/3. This calculation is exactly the same as we did before, isn't it? 2 minus 2/3. We did that somewhere over here, right there. So we get the same equation. Okay, now this is a little different. We are given 2 points, and we want to find the equation of the line. So it's going to be important to come up with the slope. This is the equation for finding the slope. Let's go ahead and plot these 2 points. I'll call this one x1, y1, and this one x2, y2, just to keep things straight. So x1 is 3, y1 is 2. There's that first point. x2 is -2, and y2 is 5. We almost ran out of room there. And now I just need to try to join these up with a line. And so this tells me something already. My slope, is it going to be positive or negative? It's going to be negative because we're going downhill. So let's find the slope. y2 is 5 minus y1, which is 2, divided by x2, which is -2, minus x1, which is 3. So that gives me 5 minus 2 is 3, right? And in the denominator, I have -5. So I'm going to write this as -3/5. We have all the information we need. We have the slope as -3/5, and we have 2 points. So you could use either one. First, we'll do substitution. And then you can determine which method you like best. Which point should you use? Well, I like this one. Why do you think I like this one? All the numbers are positive. So plug in y for y, 2. That's what y equals m -3/5 times what? X. Plus b, which is our unknown. So 2 equals -9/5 plus b. We're solving for b, so add 9/5 to both sides. And what do we get? Well, maybe we have to do a little scratch work over here. 2 plus 9/5, that's the same thing as 10/5 plus 9/5. So b has to equal 19/5. And it always helps me to think about this in terms of whole numbers to see if my graph looks right. 19/5 is not quite 4, isn't it? It's 3 and 4/5. that right? Yes. So my equation of the line is negative 3/5 x plus 19 over 5. Let's see if our y-intercept was anywhere near that point. Well, there it is. Y-intercept right there. 19 over 5 is the b. X value is 0. So our graph was pretty good. Can you see that's very close to the number 4? Now, we want to do this with the other method, which is using the point slope formula. So let's do that on the next page. Okay, let's see how this would work out. Again, I always choose the point that doesn't have negatives in it if I have a choice. So I'm going to call this x1, y1, and I'm using this point slope formula, which looks like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So what does that mean? Y minus 2 equals negative 3/5 times x minus 3. So now I have y minus 2 equals negative 3/5 x plus 9 over 5. When we multiply these two together, that's what we get. Now, I want to leave my final answer in slope-intercept form, so I've got to add 2 to both sides, right? So y equals negative 3/5 x plus 9 over 5 plus 2, which is 10 over 5. That's equivalent to 2. So y equals negative 3/5 x plus 19 over 5, which is exactly what we got with the other method. So it's up to you. Which one do you think's easier? I don't know. I just like this way. Okay. I think we have time to do this. Hold on. This one. Example 3. Now we have the slope and we have the y-intercept. This is the easiest one to do, the easiest kind of problem, because you know what the slope is. M is 1/4. You know what the y-intercept is, so b equals 2. There's the equation of the line, and here they've plotted it for us. And notice it's a positive slope, and if you go 4 units to the right, you go 1 unit up. Okay, let's pause, and then we'll come back and talk about parallel lines and perpendicular lines.